Hello again, this is Ian. This is a video of my 440mm camera drone, and in this particular case I have been modifying the Quantum gimbal that I have on this quad by adding a Storm32 gimbal controller, which has got a lot more features than the old Alex Moss 8-bit that was on the original Quantum gimbal. So here I did a flight. It's altogether about 25 minutes, but I've edited it down to about 8 so you can get a general idea of how this gimbal performs. The camera here is a Mobius Mini on the gimbal. The first thing you notice that it does quite well on things like holding the horizon level as I move and turn, and that in general the video quality is excellent. I can still see a few artifacts here and there which suggests I've still got a bit of work to do on the stiffness of the vibration isolation balls on the gimbal. I used to keep them rather soft to try and compensate for the inability of the gimbal to do its job, but this gimbal seems to work so much better in its own right that I'm going to be able to probably stiffen up the damping just a little bit. So anyway, one of the things, just to give you a bit of a background about the flight, I decided that I would go up to the maximum altitude allowed by law, which is 400 feet. And in this particular case, I've got the drone in position hold, in fact with altitude hold on automatically in the case of INAV 2.1.0. And so I thought I'd just go up to 400 feet and do a panoramic view of the area. It's a nice spring day when I took this. Temperature was about 60. Usual issues that I have with getting the climb rate established when it's in position hold, since you have to overcome the deadband and then some to put the drone into a reasonable climb rate. Almost be nice to have a switch that turns the climb rate on, in fact. Now, one of the things I did notice on this, and you can see it here, the horizon, which started off absolutely dead level, had actually ended up drifting a little, and I'm not quite sure, but I think that's a programming issue. One point you can set the horizon angle difference to be a variable, like 1 or 2 degrees, and I think you're looking at some kind of change there. Now at this point, only a few minutes further on down the video, as I scan the Blue Ridge Mountains that are just a little 40 miles away from us, here they come. The horizon stays quite level for most of it, but at one point in time it did drift off 2, 3, 4 degrees, and here you can see it doing it. All the drone is doing a very slow programmed yaw, so but it was doing it facing into the wind. It was probably 5 or 6 knots at altitude, so I guess the drone was actually fighting more to keep level in different parts of the rotation. But you can get a general idea of what's going on. You can see it's drifted off a couple of degrees at this point in time. Now I do have a control, RC control of the roll, so I can actually correct this manually if I wish. But just interesting to see that it's not perfect yet, and I probably have a lot to learn about the way this controller works. But again, quite nice shots, not a lot of vibration, certainly no jello that's obvious in the video at all at this point in time as I continue to scroll around at 400 feet. And here we are coming down, and you can hear the prop wash hitting the camera. And this is one of the things that I know I'm going to have to fix. When you make too many sudden changes and the prop revs get different, the airflow seems to buffet the camera. And since I don't have the camera under the center of the drone, I have it forward between the forward 2 props. I really need to shroud it like most of the professional drones do, like the Mavic and those DJI drones, where the gimbal itself is tucked away inside a housing that would prevent it from being buffeted by the props. Now at one point here, I'm not sure whether this is it, I programmed a 10-leg mission and I think it's busy doing that 10-leg mission as we speak. Let me see where I am in the video. No, I think this was me having finished the pan at altitude. I came back down again to load the mission, and so we landed here, disarm, reset the mission, and this time I'm going to take off and switch mission on. Again, I think the mission altitude I set was 20 meters. The mission speed is 3 meters a second, and here we are, just putting it in position hold. And then there we go, that's the mission taking control. Off it goes. Of course, flying into the sun, like all bad cinematographers do. And off it goes. And yeah, we can, at this point I'm not flying the drone, it's completely autonomous. And you can get some idea of how well the gimbal controls. You notice there that because it does a rapid yaw, I don't have the gimbal software set tight enough to prevent the camera lagging sufficiently for the props to show. Here I'm just messing with the RC control. We've done enough shooting of the horizon. Let's take a few pictures of the ground and areas around. Another one of the legs just selected, and off it goes. And you can see that the turns on iNav are quite brisk. You'll hear the motors change, and you can hear the buffeting on the camera when it does it as well. Here it is coming to the front of the property. I have the ability to face the camera straight down. And the drone turns. The jostling there was not the drone, that was me. I have a vernier on the tilt of the camera, but I was using the coarse adjustment, which is plus 45 to minus 90. So it does not move smoothly. You really can only use it as a rough setting, and then use the vernier to give nice smooth vertical pan control. Here again, the mission's still going full blast. Here I am, just missing the top of a tree. I didn't realize how tall that tree was. That's 20 meters. There we go. Everything working quite nicely, 3 meters a second. Again, one of the things that's impressive with this gimbal, as you will see again at the next turn, it really does hold level well. It's a fairly brisk, almost 360 to, or 180 turn. Flying towards the front. You can hear the buffeting on the camera at this point. If you listen behind me speaking, the airflow on the camera is obvious. Now here the airflow is not buffeting the camera, and you can hear that it isn't. And then at certain points, depending on what I'm doing, you'll hear it. There's almost like a ripping sound. That's because one side, as it does a turn like that, to do a yaw, two of the motors speed up and two slow down, and it does create some kind of wash. That ought to be an easy fix. I will build a lightweight cover just to deflect the air away from the camera itself. Again, reminder, 3 meters a second is the transit speed here, and I'm at 20 meters is the setting. Okay, this I think was the last leg of the mission. It'll fly back pretty much towards the takeoff point, is where I set the end of the mission. And then at this point I did not land, the mission ends and the quad stops and parks itself, and there it goes. So then at this point I just took a few more shots, came down low just to see how it does in a descent. You can see the descent in the prop wash is still a little rough. And here we are about, I think, to pull the trigger on a return to home. I think I faced away first before I did it. Again, this is just gave me something slightly more detailed to focus on to see how the gimbal was looking. Now here we go, ready to do a return to home. There we go. Climb to 15 meters. And in this case I had set the landing point differently from the takeoff point. When I was flying around before, I put the drone over a landing point and reset home. And so in this particular case, it's landing differently than where it took off. And there it is.